Xbox Game Pass is in a lot of trouble, and that's putting it nicely. We have a lot to cover in this video, and we're going to start with the story from Insider Gaming discussing how Xbox revenue falls $113 million year over year, which it doesn't take a genius to realize that's not very good. Microsoft says that Xbox hardware sales have gone down 29%, leading to a roughly $113 million revenue loss year over year. News comes after early in October, the company increased the price of Game Pass to much controversy. Xbox, despite having some well-received titles recently like Ninja Gaiden 4 and Outer Worlds 2, has had a rough time recently. And I will say, by the way, like the overall reception for both those games has been pretty much universally positive. The people that are playing the games are enjoying them and having fun with them. Like they're both fun games. But one key aspect that is really not a good look is both of them are not doing very well when it comes to concurrent player counts on Steam, which is typically a direct correlation to how the game is faring in sales and things like that, which kind of speaks directly to how Game Pass is consuming and completely devouring any potential sales for a lot of first-party titles, specifically with Microsoft, but not limited to. Massive cancellations of Xbox Game Pass and even removal from Costco and Sam's Club, by the way, have not done well for the gaming team at Microsoft. Unfortunately, it seems like it has spread to its sales as the company reports a 2% loss in total revenue. Fiscal year 2026, Q1 report from Microsoft, the company revealed that Xbox did not reach the same heights as it did last year. Xbox hardware revenue decreased 29%, driven by lower volume of consoles sold. Xbox content and services revenue increased 1% on a strong prior year comparable with growth in Xbox Game Pass and third-party content, offset in part by a decline in first-party content. Now, this is actually something that I've been screaming from the hilltops for what feels like years now. With all the acquisitions that Microsoft's been doing between Bethesda, Activision, Blizzard, and a slew of other massive companies over the years, they're buying up all these companies, putting out games that are not necessarily blowing doors. And while they might be making their money back on the development costs of the game, they're not making any money back to pay for the studio that Microsoft bought, which is a problem if you're just basically breaking even. It's important to note that the mentioned 1% increase comes from splitting content and services away from the hardware, showing how each specific subsector is performing. Whether Xbox can regain ground from its loss remains to be seen. It recently announced that Halo Campaign Evolved is coming to PlayStation, continuing the company's third-party movement forward. Xbox is planning a big year in 2026 with releases like Forza 6, Clockwork Revolution, and Fable. And I got to be honest, this is what the problem is, at least from my perspective. None of these games interest me. Like I'm already out on all of them. It's like they're creating games for an audience that, sure, there are people that play these games, but for someone that's been playing games their whole life, I'd rather, I don't know, experience newer games, different games, new IPs, just different stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but it'll be interesting to see how it pans out and whether it can save face, regardless of how good its new games could be. And here's, by the way, that's what I want to follow it up with. And Grum sent me this, so shout out to him. You know what's bad? When you have one of the biggest shills in gaming, the journos that are starting to admit that it's not working out. We got Paul Tassi on Forbes, who says subscription growth has flattened. So what does that mean for Xbox Game Pass and PS Plus? You might have seen this coming, given that Microsoft has not shared Game Pass sub numbers in 2 years since January 22, but it's because in the wake of explosive pandemic growth, things have slowed quite a bit. Now there's a relevant comment from someone who would know. Oh, here we go. Here we go, guys. The NPD's Matt Piscatella, who makes the point that subscription growth has flattened. I almost feel like they use Matt Piscatella to prove a point that they already have an outcome for, which, full disclosure, sometimes they can be right with that. And he says that total spending on console and PC subscriptions are just 10% of all spending. That is wild if that is true. That is wild. 10% of spending is PC and console subscription services. As such, the idea that the industry is moving toward a Netflix-like ecosystem of subscriptions, erasing things like discs or one-off digital downloads, is not really going to be a thing. Like, I don't know, we've been screaming for how long about, and they keep trying to push forward with it, because at the end of the day, it's not about convenience. It's about control and money. If you can do digital downloads, you can control the availability for the product that you're selling. You can control the price of it. You can control everything about it. You can take it away. You can give it back to the person. All the control. If someone has the disc, you can't do anything to them with it. This is relevant for both Microsoft and Sony in particular in different ways. Microsoft obviously has a huge amount invested in the idea of the Xbox ecosystem, something that hinges on widespread Game Pass adoption for play on Xbox or PC or cloud streaming across all manners of devices. But if growth has flattened to the point where Microsoft isn't even comfortable sharing milestones, you have to wonder what happens when costs go up and up and up for massive AAA games launching directly on Game Pass if the growth is not there to justify it. I'll tell you this too. There is no game in particular, for me at least. I can't speak for everyone. I can just speak for myself. There's no game that Microsoft's going to come out with that I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to subscribe to Game Pass this month for that game. That doesn't happen. And I'll go one step further. If it did happen, it would literally be, I would sub for it, and then I would set the cancellation date for the end of the month. If that ever did happen, it's not something that I would ever dive head on into and be like, yep, this is the way it is now. Like, no, I would much rather purchase and own the game or have it downloaded on Steam where I can play it whenever I want to and not stress about timeframes or feel like I'm wasting money on something that I'm not utilizing. Whereas if you buy a game and you don't play it right away, you'll still have it 10 years from now and you can play it then. So it's not technically like a waste of money. Whereas if you're paying for time and the time is gone and you didn't play anything, you wasted money. So it's a massive difference, massive difference. Fortunately, Microsoft, the nearly $3 trillion company now, may not care. But I'm not sure how long this claim that Game Pass itself is profitable will stand. I can guarantee you there is some funny business going on with the numbers if they're saying Game Pass is profitable. I don't know how that, like, they'd have to be ignoring the cost of the development for the games going into it. And if they cut all that out of it, all the lost revenue from the game's creations, then yeah, of course it's profitable. If you don't incur the cost of the games going into Game Pass. On Sony's side, PlayStation has been struggling with the idea that they do not have the equivalent subscription service. PS Plus only offering older games and new releases, having their reach limited by being released on PlayStation only, and if players are lucky, on PC a long while after. So while Sony still has big initial sales, there's no equivalent ecosystem here for them like Xbox to broaden their reach. I almost think that's done on purpose. I feel like PlayStation doesn't want to corner themselves into a situation where they end up like Microsoft. Games Radar. Revenue from game subscriptions like Xbox Game Pass has barely grown in 2 years, potentially explaining Microsoft studio closures. I would remove this potentially word. Like it is. That is the canary in the coal mine. When they had the massive layoff in July of this year, I'm like, well, anyone that was claiming Game Pass is a roaring success, this is proof positive that it's not. A company doesn't do the kind of layoff that Microsoft does if their main product that they're trying to sell is doing well. Revenue from gaming subscriptions has reportedly barely increased in the last 2 years in the US, which might help paint a clearer picture around Microsoft's recent studio closures. By the way, this was one of those, the board executives, the Phil Spencers, the Sarah Bonds, the suits at the company, all selling to the shareholders and the board executive members of, this is the future. It is the hockey stick growth straight up to the moon. This is the future of gaming. We have to pour all our resources into it to get to that outcome. But based off of the trajectory right now, I can prove to you guys that Game Pass will just continue to make infinite money. And they're proving it to them by using these sales and charts initially. Whereas I could have told them, well, obviously there's going to be a market for it, but it's not an endless market of infinite people that will dive into this. So they went head on into something, completely destroying their brand. Microsoft as a company, when it comes to gaming, I don't even know what they stand for anymore, what their culture is. It's been ruined, shit on, pissed on. What even is Xbox anymore? That's how you know the people in charge, especially Sarah Bond, are not gamers. They don't even realize that gamers want a culture around their console. That's always from the beginning of time with gaming. That's always been the way it is. It's the same reason that Google Stadia failed. Same reason that Amazon Luna is failing, because there is no culture. It's just, hey, here's games. Here's this. It's a platform to play games. They need to build the culture. They keep forgetting about that. That's the most important part of doing this, to create an atmosphere, an ecosystem where people want to become a part of it. They want to join the club of this game system. They want to buy into that area. These companies completely forgot that. Oh, your Xbox is a fucking toaster now. Like, no, I don't want that. I want my Xbox to be my fucking Xbox, bro. That's what I want. Convenience. There is something to be said for convenience. Guess who's got that market cornered? Steam. So I think a lot of these companies see Steam and they're like, we want a piece of that pie. And their greed overtakes them and they keep trying to get some of that market share from Steam. And they keep failing. And I would almost argue to the shareholders specifically, they don't necessarily lie, but it is one of those, just give us one more quarter and we will prove to you that this will grow. It's just because of these other XYZ reasons why we're not growing right now. And because of that, it delayed it. But we will grow next quarter. And the same excuse the following quarter. And they keep giving the same excuse. At some point, your time's going to run out. You can't keep telling shareholders, give us one more quarter. It's not going to work. This is from that ninja you love to hate. He says, yeah, there is a roadmap for Xbox Family Plan, quoting Phil Spencer. Friends and family, a plan they already had running, didn't deliver the ARPU Amy Hood wanted. So they canned it. Now we're supposed to trust the same leadership promising a do everything box? Be serious. They couldn't manage 4 profiles and 1 sub. Now they're pitching the future of Windows gaming like it's not the same OS that forgets your controller. Which actually, that one hits home pretty hard because I have the original Xbox One and my controllers desync if you pull them further than 5 feet away from the console now, no matter how strong the batteries are. It's a complete mess. This is just the beginning for Game Pass and the downfall of Game Pass. It's not a great look for the overall numbers of them. And the fiscal year 26 quarter 1 financial update really kind of told everyone that. This is the raw data. They can't beat around the bush with this. Stealth says, Xbox fiscal year 26 Q1 financial update, total gaming revenue, minus 2%. Content and services revenue, plus 1%. Hardware revenue, minus 29%. And this is a key one because their hardware revenue was not good to begin with. So minus almost 30% on a terrible revenue previously. It's not looking great. Strong growth in Game Pass and third-party content and decline in first-party content. What they're trying to say is strong pass and Game Pass content, aka we have a lot more games available, but there's a decline or staying basically even with the amount of people that have been paying for the service. Almost like you're starting to lose money with the amount of money you put into making these games. And the monthly users are staying stagnant. You'd be better off just not putting the games on the service and hoping that you keep some of them still and people will buy that game in addition to it. But you're not making any additional money on top of that with just keeping it on the service. Since 2022, hardware revenue has decreased 13 out of the last 17 quarters. Holy crap. It's been bad. It's been really bad. And honestly, they have no one to blame but themselves. Because gaming in general, I would argue, is, you could almost say, peaking right now with the amount of content that's available, the games that are coming out. This has been a fantastic year for gaming. It really has. 2025 will go down in the books. That was a great year. That was a great year for gaming. It really was. And it's not even over yet. And if Xbox is failing to sell products in the gaming realm during one of the best years that I can remember in recent history in gaming, that's a you problem, Microsoft. And I would go right to Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer and be like, what the fuck are you guys doing over here? What are the decisions you're making? Who is in charge, and why are you making these decisions? And I know it sounds kind of silly to say this, and I almost try to remove myself from the equation, but you could take me or anyone out there like me, put me in the same exact damn position, and I guarantee you, I would not do worse than what they did. And if that's the case, they need to fucking go. That's your barometer right there. That's bad. That's bad. Game Pass is completely failing, and they're raising the prices, and no end in sight. People are even saying that there are expectations the Game Pass price will go up again next year. And if that happens, holy crap. But we'll see what happens next. But as of right now, to me, Xbox is on extreme life support. But I'll leave that one there.